Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. Today, I have got great news for the Second Amendment community. This is just one more domino to fall as far as gun control legislation because of the ruling in the New York Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen, written mostly by Justice Clarence Thomas. And if we look at what that ruling truly does, it should, piece by piece, tear down just about all gun control. So this is very good news. But before we get started, I want to thank each and every one of you that subscribed to the channel. We just passed 1,000 subscribers, and I really, really do appreciate you guys. So let's get started here. This article is entitled, Judge Rules Federal Law Banning Guns with Serial Numbers Removed is Unconstitutional. Really, all gun control is unconstitutional, and I think we're going to see this kind of thing more and more. A federal judge blocked a federal law on Wednesday that prohibits the possession of a firearm with an altered, obliterated, or removed serial number in light of the Supreme Court's landmark ruling expanding gun rights earlier this year. U.S. District Judge Joseph Goodwin ruled that no historical standard exists to demonstrate that firearms without a serial number are more dangerous or unusual than firearms with a serial number, so the law is unconstitutional. He said in his ruling that he is abiding by the Supreme Court's June decision in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruen, in which the court struck down a New York law placing additional limits on who can carry a firearm outside the home. The court ruled that the state's requirement that applicants demonstrate a special need to carry a firearm outside the home beyond self-defense violates the Second Amendment right to bear arms, which it absolutely does. Justice Clarence Thomas wrote in the majority opinion that the regulations on firearms should be consistent with historical patterns of regulating firearms. And this is what's going to be very important for all kinds of gun control. I'm hoping that this is what gets silencers off the NFA, or even just gets rid of the NFA, because the NFA wasn't around when they wrote the Second Amendment. Goodwin said in his ruling that a firearm without a serial number in 1791 was not considered more dangerous or unusual than other firearms because serial numbers were not commonly used at the time. And that is the thing. Things that were commonly used at the time that the Second Amendment was written in 1791 are really the only things that stand anymore. It's text, history, and tradition during the time that the Second Amendment was put into place. The Second Amendment was ratified as part of the Bill of Rights in 1791. The government argued that the regulation is constitutional because it is a commercial regulation that does not infringe on the right to keep and bear arms. But Goodwin, who was appointed to the Southern District of West Virginia by former President Clinton, ruled that the law is not a commercial regulation because it criminalizes the possession of firearms without a serial number, regardless of whether it is sold. The case arose from charges filed against a man named Randy Price for violating the regulation prohibiting the possession of firearms without serial numbers and one prohibiting felons from possessing firearms. At a traffic stop in Charleston, West Virginia, police found a pistol without a serial number in Price's possession. At the time officers allegedly found the pistol, Price had been convicted in Ohio of involuntary manslaughter and aggravated robbery, making him a felon. Price had challenged both on constitutional grounds. Goodwin upheld the restriction on felons possessing firearms. That's the entire article. But even though he upheld that, he struck down the part about serial numbers. And while that doesn't necessarily affect me personally, all my firearms have serial numbers, but a few of them I built myself. And this is part of the whole ghost gun thing, or what they're now calling personally made firearms, or PMFs. It's all about a serial number because they don't believe that the American public should be allowed to possess firearms without a serial number, whether it never had a serial number because you ordered the parts online and assembled it at home, or if you bought a firearm and somehow scratched out the serial number or something like that, which has been an illegal act for just about ever, or at least since they made that against the law. But text history and tradition, the time that they made that against the law was way after the Second Amendment was written. And with the Bruen decision, now things can only be considered constitutional and upheld as far as gun control if they pass the test of text, history, and tradition during the time that the Second Amendment was written. And so, what I am really excited about when it comes to the Bruen decision, and this is just more evidence of this kind of thing happening, the more and more cases we get that go up to the Supreme Court, the more that the gun control advocates are going to lose, and those of us on the side of the Second Amendment are going to win. Because most, if not all, of the gun control that has been passed in this country has been after the time of the Second Amendment. And the Second Amendment was very, very clear in its language of shall not be infringed. So that makes it clear to me that just about all gun control, or literally all gun control, is unconstitutional. So now it's just a matter of cases such as this making their way to the Supreme Court, getting tried against the Bruen decision, found to be unconstitutional, and then applied across the board. And when things like silencers get there, short-barreled rifles, machine guns, none of these things were restricted at the time that the Second Amendment was written, and none of them will pass the text, history, and tradition threshold to be a constitutional piece of gun control legislation. And that is what makes me excited, and I hope that it makes you excited too, because there is nothing about silencers, suppressors, cans that makes them dangerous. In fact, they're a safety device. They help you keep your hearing. And generally, they don't make a gun into a deadly sniper rifle weapon like you see in the movies and like the left would want people to believe. Silencers are not dangerous, and they just make it just a little bit nicer to shoot your gun. Same thing with short-barreled rifles. Short-barreled rifles are no more dangerous than rifles with a 16-inch barrel. But they have been highly regulated ever since the NFA and the GCA were passed not that long ago when you consider the entire history of our country. And that's what's important, is those things don't hold up to the ruling, the Bruen decision. And so when we can get cases on these kinds of things all the way up to the Supreme Court, I believe that they're going to fall like dominoes and that gun control will be a thing of the past eventually, at least insofar as gun control the way we know it now. Now, we have a president right now who's trying to pass another assault weapons ban. That absolutely is not constitutional, especially in light of this Bruen decision. There was no such thing as an assault weapons ban when the Second Amendment was written, and so it doesn't pass. It's not constitutional. And luckily, we do have Supreme Court justices right now that believe in the Constitution, and it's going our way. We are winning. Whether it looks like it or not to you, we are winning. And it's a step-by-step process, but we will get there. And eventually, we won't have to put pistol braces on our short-barreled firearms anymore. Short-barreled rifles will someday be legal and not regulated as NFA items, as will suppressors. I believe this to be true. I hope you believe it too. We all need to vote for people that also fall in line with our beliefs as far as standing up for our rights in the Second Amendment. It is very important for us to do our part to voice our opinions and to vote for the people that are going to vote our way and not for the people that want to restrict our rights. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it brought you some joy as this article brought me some joy. And I really appreciate if you guys would subscribe to the channel, if you would drop a like for this video, if you would share this video with other people that believe in the Second Amendment. That would make me extremely happy, and I would appreciate it very much. From Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.